And once again, the big one on top. 22 and 23 also guilty, Ron. I'm passing that little information along to you. 22 and 23 also guilty.
Yeah, 22 and 23 relate to Vander Brothers Construction and Anthony Milarno, who it was alleged during the trial that Vander Brothers Construction did a great deal of home improvements at Jimmy Dimora's home, particularly concrete work. And so that is what those two accounts specifically relate to, home improvements in exchange for Vander Brother Construction getting county contracts.
This changed everything in this county. You certainly would agree with that, Ron. I'm interrupting myself. 24 and 25 also guilty. What can you tell us about 24 and 25?
Sure. 24 and 25 revolve around Robert Ryback, who was with the plumbers local union here in Cuyahoga County. Ryback, incidentally, was a longtime personal friend of the Dimoras as well, but the government alleged and presented evidence during the trial that Ryback provided a great deal of plumbing, free plumbing at Dimora's home in exchange for not only hiring union plumbers, but also in one case in particular with giving Ryback's wife a raise, who was working in the auditor's office.
26, 27, also guilty, Ron.
All right, 26 and 27 relate to Charles Randazzo. Now, that's a name that you probably haven't heard a lot about. He again figured into this because he is another Cleveland businessman. He ran a company called Financial Networks of America, and he was trying to lobby Dimora to bring in essentially a 401k kind of program and make that available to county employees. And the government alleged that he did that through supplying bribes to Jimmy Dimora.
Once again, we were talking a little bit, I don't know if we really got to it. I remember we talked about it a little bit, about Jimmy Dimora never got on the stand to testify in his own defense. And I was asking you, were you surprised at that?
You know, I actually, Leon, I wasn't. I knew that there was some thinking that he'd be his own last chance to explain his actions, but having covered so many federal corruption trials over my own career, it would be it would have been very risky to put Jimmy Dimora on the stand and allow him to be cross-examined to the extent that the prosecution team would have done that. I think it's probably fair to say that government prosecutors would have loved to have had Jimmy Dimora on the stand, and I don't think it would have gone ultimately well. That's in my own judgment, of course, on that, but I suspected that his attorneys would realize more harm than good could have come from that, Leon.
My mind goes back to a couple of years ago when Jimmy Dimora said, "I'm no angel, but I'm also no crook." And apparently the government has proven that, and the jury has decided that he is a crook.
Well, you know, to that point, we have accumulated a series of interviews with Jimmy Dimora, and you know, if we have those available, it might be insightful to listen to Dimora talk about that, because we spoke to him over several occasions over the last 2 years, and if we have those interviews, I'd like you to go ahead and listen to what he had to say.
I'm certain that our staff is getting into our archives and seeing if we can pull out that we do have that piece of video, and if we could roll that piece of video about Jimmy Dimora saying he was no crook, if we could hear that now.
And I really believe that I've done nothing wrong. The audits have shown that. Taxpayers have not at $1 had any loss of money from any decision that I made with regard to any awards of any business in county government since I've been a commissioner. So a whole lot of people that got in trouble, that made up lies, that were cut deals with the federal government for less jail time, and there was nothing done where any contracts were steered or any bid rigging done on my part. It's all.
And we've just found out guilty on 28 and 29, not guilty on number 30, which is mail fraud. Not guilty on number 30, Ron.
Let me elaborate a little bit on counts 28, 29, and 30. 28 and 29 dealt with the obstruction of justice and the falsification and destruction of records. What happened was that as soon as Jimmy Dimora learned that he was under investigation by the FBI, and this occurred in toward the end of May of 2008, it went into a frenzy. Dimora, Gabor, Russo, the phone lines lit up. They knew that the jig was up, so to speak, and they began actually asking for phony invoices from some of these companies to try to cover their tracks, so to speak. In some cases, evidence was destroyed, and that is what those two counts relate to. Now, count number 30, which I understand was not guilty. Am I correct on that, Leon? Is that your information?
You are correct. My information is not guilty on
Sure.
mail fraud number 30.
Well, count 30 dealt with, you might remember, executive caterers. That was an allegation that the government claimed that Jimmy Dimora used tens of thousands of dollars to hold a fancy party at executive caterers for his wife's birthday party, and that he used money from his own campaign fund, which would be illegal to use that for a personal benefit. So apparently the jury did not find that there was enough evidence to support count 30.
So we've got a few more to go. We're down at we're still waiting on 31 through 37. Certainly half of those have to do with false statements on tax returns. As we await word on those, give us a little thought about that. It's my understanding that the government wants you to pay taxes on money or whatever you got, no matter how you got it, legally or illegally. Is that correct?
Well, exactly right. Counts 34 through 37 allege that he didn't report the value of the bribes, and so that is, I think, looking back over the previous counts, I think we can see where that might go. Counts 30 and 31, or 31 and 32, are interesting counts. We're going to hear those in a second, but they relate to Joe Gallucci. Leon, you might remember that at one point Frank Russo and
guilty on 34 through 37.
And counts 34
tax
through
returns.
37 guilty. The Gallucci charges, Gallucci offered to run for auditor against Frank Russo, run against in a sham election, and then of course he dropped out. But the deal was that he got something out of it in terms of a county job. So that's they are counts 31 and 32.
And where we stand on numbers 31 through 33, does anybody in our control room have information on that? Counts 31 through 32 and 33. I don't have.
Yeah, we start to get into the Michael Gabor counts there, and that is going to revolve around not only Gabor's relationship with Dimora and the illegal activities that he performed on behalf of Jimmy Dimora, but also in one specific way, he was lobbying to get his wife a raise. His wife worked in the auditor's office, and he was lobbying to get his wife a raise in the auditor's office.
Gabor has been found guilty also of number 1 and 17. Michael Gabor and 19, 117 and 19. Gabor has been found guilty of those. Michael Gabor, the co-defendant in this case.
Any way you look at this, Leon, this has been a pretty clean sweep.
You took the words out of my mouth, a clean sweep for the prosecution, certainly for the federal government.
Yeah. I think what we can look forward to happening in the next couple of minutes, the government may well make a move, Leon, that in its view, Jimmy Dimora should be placed in custody immediately. We haven't been told that officially, but that typically happens in these cases.